PhD doctor here talking about this. Let's have a listen to this. It's about 15 minutes. I'm going to play some of it for you to get the point, and then you can. This is electromagnetic smog. This is, electromagnetic radiation, and these types of things that are put out by devices. This is 2016. Of course, the rollout of 5G isn't in full effect yet, and we'll see what happens then. I mean, what a world we'll live in. May we live in interesting times, as the Chinese said. Let's have a little listen to this. I'll come back in like about 7 or 8 minutes.
To limit my talk today just to electro-hypersensitivity, because it's something that's not well understood in North America. Electro-hypersensitivity, I had originally, is an emerging health issue. I think it's actually emerged. It's really quite serious. And I use the acronym EHS, and I realized in this audience, EHS means something quite different. So EHS, when I use it, is electro-hypersensitivity, and we could certainly use National Institute of Electro-Hypersensitivity. When it comes to non-ionizing electromagnetic fields, it falls into 4 different categories: low-frequency electromagnetic fields and radio-frequency microwaves. And I went to the NIEH website and found that you do actually have information on both of those. But there's other parts of the spectrum that need to be looked at as well. Intermediate frequencies is a very serious one. So is ground current in certain parts of the United States. And I'm going to be introducing some of these as well. Our exposure to wireless technology and electrosmog has increased dramatically. These are the different places in the United States that used Wi-Fi back in 2002, mostly research labs and universities. Within 10 years, this is what the map looks like, and it's getting worse. So our exposure to this radiation is increasing quite dramatically, and it's not only Wi-Fi. When I did my research, I didn't realize that there were actually more cell phones in the United States than the population. And you couldn't have said that 10 years ago. I also looked at the NIEHS website on electromagnetic fields to find out what was available and came up with absolutely nothing. So this illness, which I think is incredibly important, this pollutant, which I think is incredibly important, is really being ignored by a lot of federal agencies here in the United States and also in my country and Canada. In 2004, I attended a meeting of the World Health Organization. They had a special workshop on electro-hypersensitivity, and they said EHS is a real and debilitating problem, and it occurs at levels well below our guidelines. The guidelines in North America are based on a heating effect, nothing else. They're absolutely out of date. The symptoms of EHS affect all of our organs and tissues. They induce inflammation, as Bill just said. They affect the nervous system, the cardiovascular system, the skin, the eyes, digestion, all of those. And I'm just going to pick 4 examples that I'd like to share with you in this very brief presentation. So I'm going to present 4 case studies and a form of electromagnetic pollution that affects them. This is all my own research. It's all been published. It's all been peer-reviewed, and I'd be happy to provide references to anyone who might be interested in this. And I'm going to start with multiple sclerosis. A few years ago, I started working with people who have multiple sclerosis to find out if we reduce the electrosmog in their home, whether or not their symptoms would recover, thinking that the nervous system is electromagnetic, our exposure is electromagnetic. And I was getting such amazing results that I thought no one is going to believe the results. Indeed, I actually thought it was a placebo effect, and I thought, my God, this placebo effect is very powerful. So I started videotaping the people I work with. This is a 40-year-old woman who has secondary progressive MS. I went to her home back in 2004, and I asked her to hold her hands out. She is really very debilitated by the MS. And this is trying to hold her hands straight. So she can't feed herself. She can't go to the bathroom by herself. We cleaned up something in her home that I call Agent X, and 6 weeks later, these were her symptoms. She hadn't changed any of the medication she was on, and we were getting this type of response, in some cases within a couple of days, and in some cases within a couple of weeks. Agent X happens to be intermediate frequencies. So we didn't get rid of the radio frequency in our home. We didn't get rid of low magnetic fields. We actually got rid of intermediate frequencies that are in the kilohertz range, so thousands of cycles per second. And the main culprit in her home was a plasma TV. Plasma TVs are notorious for this. They can be resolved by simply putting in a filter in the TV set that reduces this frequency, but because so few people recognize that it's biologically active, there's no regulations to ensure that this is done. This is another person with MS, and this is an MRI scan showing the lesions in the brain. This was back in 2001. 7 years he was living without intermediate frequencies or much lower levels, and you can see that the sclerosis has disappeared. And this is not a placebo effect, it's not psychological, it's really happening to people. And so this is good news. If you reduce your exposure, you can actually recover. The second example I'd like to give is dealing with diabetes, and we know that diabetes is becoming a pandemic. The number of type 2 diabetics especially is increasing. Now, if you're either a type 1 or a type 2 diabetic and you suffer from electrohypersensitivity, I've classified that as a type E diabetic, which means there's an environmental trigger that will affect your blood sugar. And I'm going to show you just one example. This is a 57-year-old woman who's a type 2 diabetic, doesn't take any medication. This shows you her blood sugar. And the way that she recovers her blood sugar is by exercise. She goes for a 20-minute walk. And in a 20-minute walk, you can see here that her blood sugar before the walk, shown in gray, and after a 20-minute walk, shown in green, does exactly what it's supposed to do. It comes down. We're using up the glucose. When she does a walk and is exposed to Agent X, this is what happens to her blood sugar. It actually goes up, and it goes up quite consistently. Agent X happens to be a treadmill that produces intermediate frequencies and high magnetic fields as well. Third example is looking at live blood, and this is my own blood that I'm going to be showing you. My work environment has low EMFs. I did that deliberately because I know what the long-term consequences of exposure are. And then I exposed my body to 3 different agents, and this is what happened to the live blood. Now at the bottom here, you can see the red blood cells are aggregating, they're sticking together, and when they stick together in a coin-like formation, we call that rouleau. So Agent X happens to be pulsed electromagnetic field mat that is used to improve circulation. And you can see how the blood cells are actually staying apart. It actually increases the electrical potential charge on the cells, so they're repelling each other. Agent Y happens to be a computer that's not in Wi-Fi mode. So this is just a regular computer plugged in using Ethernet connections, and Agent Z is a cordless phone. So when my blood is exposed to this, it goes into rouleau formation, which is not good. The consequences of this are actually quite obvious, I think, to everyone here, but there are some other more serious consequences. The red blood cell aggregation has been associated with things like diabetes, stroke, heart attacks, Alzheimer's disease, and quite a few other things as well. And the symptoms that people get if their blood sticks together are these. And so one of the benefits, I think, of live blood is that we might be able to use it as a diagnostic for people who are electrically hypersensitive. It won't work for everyone, but it will work for a handful of people. The last example I'd like to give you is dealing with heart attacks or anxiety attacks. Many of the people I work with who are electrically hypersensitive tell me that they go into a certain environment and suddenly their heart will start palpitating. And so what we've done is, we can measure the heart. So we've done a study with 25 people from Colorado, and this is showing their heart rate variability results, showing the number of beats of their heart rate, 58, 56, and 58 beats during 3 3-minute segments. Now, this particular person was exposed to the Agent X during segment 2, and you can see there's virtually no difference, no change in the heart rate or the heart rate variability, and this person was non-responsive. Here we have a very different response. This person is in a supine position, so they're lying down. We turn on Agent X, and their heartbeat goes from 68 to 122 beats per minute when they're exposed, and it goes back to the normal baseline for them very, very quickly. And obviously, this is a highly responsive person, and what they're experiencing is tachycardia. Now, this was one of the more extreme examples. Usually, the heart rate will only go up 10 or 20 units rather than a doubling. And the agent here was a cordless phone base station. So for people in the audience who have one of these cordless phones, one of the things you should realize, it's emitting 24/7, whether you're using the phone or not. And if you have it next to your bed, you're exposed to microwave radiations on a regular basis. Now, one of the concerns we have about 2.4 gigahertz, which is the frequency of that phone, is that kids now that are attending schools where Wi-Fi has been introduced, they're beginning to suffer from headaches, all sorts of problems, including heart problems. And in one of the schools in Ontario, when the parents started talking, we found out that after Wi-Fi was introduced into the school, quite a few of the kids had heart issues, to the point where they were going to their pediatric cardiologist. And
so I won't play any more of that. You get the picture. What this lady here, this doctor, is talking about is the fact that obviously these electromagnetics have very bad symptoms. We'll play the rest of this after I just talk for a second. Actually, might as well finish it up. The point is that this is around 2 or something gigahertz, these frequencies. Remember, 5G goes up to 120 gigahertz. Okay, it's a completely different animal. It's going to be a different world. If this is causing problems, okay, at your Wi-Fi there and all these different kinds of equipment you have, I have like these kinds of things around my house as well, even hard cabling. But the main point is that this is really the world. And when the 5G is rolled out and literally nothing can stop it, it's going to be a new world that we live in, and there will be all kinds of other problems. But the thing is, the tech companies who always talk about, you know, saving the environment and all this kinds of stuff, they are the ones that are doing it. Of course, they're virtuous. They have angel wings on their back. Okay? They're all angels. Let's keep on going. We've got about 5 more minutes here and we'll finish this up.
what the school did is they installed defibrillators. And when parents asked them if they would simply turn off the Wi-Fi for a month to see if there was any difference, they simply refused to do that. How many people have EHS? Well, I think about 3% of the population has severe symptoms and about 35% has mild to moderate symptoms. In the United States, that if those numbers are even close, we're talking about 9 to 100 million people. So we're talking about an incredibly large population. In Europe, European Union, it's even worse. Now, I know kids and children's health is a really big issue here. And, you know, one of the things that I would absolutely love to come out of NIEHS is some warnings so that people can use the technology safely or in a safer manner. For example, putting it in your pocket is not a good idea. Being pregnant and using your Wi-Fi enabled computer on your lap. We have baby monitors that basically work 24/7, emitting the infant to microwave radiation. In Europe, you can get sound-activated baby monitors. They're illegal in North America. We can't bring them in. The FCC actually prevented them from coming in. We used to have them available. And when people try to import them, the companies there will say, we can't send these to North America. So that needs to be changed. We have Wi-Fi in schools, and we have kids holding microwave transmitters next to their head. We can't continue to ignore this. Levels are going up, and they're going to continue to go up. And I say that because last year, the Federal Communication actually made $45 billion selling parts of the spectrum to the wireless industry. And one of the things they've come up with are RF emitting thermometers. So you put a soother in a child's mouth, and that will send the cell phone information about what the baby's temperature is. They have the same thing for diapers. The diaper will send the information to the mother's cell phone telling them that the diaper is wet. So if we don't want cell phones next to the head, we certainly want a microwave transmitter inside an infant's mouth. We've had issues in the past, and we've resolved some of these already. E-smog, I think, is going to be the next big issue, and there's issues with both reproduction and cancer that I haven't talked about. Now, we've done some sperm studies as well. This hasn't been published yet, but there are over 20 reports showing that it affects sperm and causes DNA damage. And this is just an example of sperm at the top left after 1 hour, and at the bottom that's been exposed to RF radiation, and after 5 hours on the right. And I think if you look at the sperm at the lower right, you can see that those guys aren't doing very well. Now, I wanted to lighten this a little bit, so I'm going to show you a little music video, and I hope the sound works, called Nuking Your Johnson.
They used to say cell phones gave you cancer, but that was like 15 years ago. You've heard the rumors about brain tumors, but your cell phone company says it ain't so. Once in a while you get a lecture from your mom. Blah blah blah, something said by Dr. Oz. It wasn't nothing about roasting your nuts, flamboyant your boys, cooking your junk. Oh, you didn't know. How could you know your cell phone's been nuking your Johnson?
Okay, so quite a little funny little song at the end of it, but incredibly serious when you take in the mass decline in sperm rates and obviously a lot of these problems. Very, very great video posted on Reddit Conspiracy there. I should have given the poster a shout out. I don't have it open though, but a shout out to who posted that. I thought it was a great, very good lecture there by someone that has excellent credentials and has published a number of peer-reviewed scientific papers on this subject, concerned about electromagnetic smog and hypersensitivity. We just have to give, wow, that is their channel right there, so you can give them a little subscribe there if you want. Definitely look forward to the rest of the information they have. So that is pretty much it. I'm going to go turn off all of my electronic equipment now. I mean, I don't have a lot going anyway, but I've really got to cable stuff up a bit more. Because your computer, I've got an electromagnetic radiation detector myself, but of course the more expensive detectors are the ones that are going to show you what you're exposed to. For instance, the cheap one I've got will show exposure in some aspects, but then it will not record the others. The kind of equipment you need is very expensive. It's like $1,000 or even more in order to really measure what you're exposed to, so you really know, because the types of things that they're using to measure it are different. Mine's based on electronic technology. The other ones are more using a crystal as a way to measure it or something like that. I don't really know. In the meantime, one more time for the archives here. Let's see if we can find it. This is the FBI. This is the people investigating Clinton. This is the person that wanted Clinton to win. Okay, let's have a look at it here. Look at it. Clinton's main man. It's like something out of a movie. So on and so forth. Of course, go out and do your own research, decide for yourselves. It's likely this video will be 10 minutes late. I didn't expect to play all of this, but this is just so interesting. It's literally gold just pouring out here from this this doctor's channel there. Excellent research there, of course. Excellent. And in the meantime, go and do your own research, decide for yourselves. You can start by researching 5G, looking at ways in order to reduce electromagnetic smog within your environment. Okay, so let me just run through this because I know a little bit about this. First of all, it's your windows, okay? Most people don't think about your windows, but if there's a cell tower beaming down through your windows, a lot of that is reflected by your rooftop, but not the glass in your home. So you never want to be sleeping in front of a glass window where there's a cell tower opposite you or a little way away. You just don't want to. You want to turn off your cellular telephones, take out the batteries. I know it hurts your social communication, okay? But you want to turn them off, take out the batteries and not use it unless you want to make a phone call, or perhaps you're going to town, okay? You're going to the shop. So you put it in your bag or you put it in the glove box of the car and you use it when you need it. Okay, you've been exposed then a little bit, but it's a distance away from you. It's in a closed case. If you really want to protect yourself, that's pretty much it, and you just limit your exposure. You mitigate risk. Other things you can do is you can just use more older technology. You turn on your computer when you want to work on it. You turn it off when you're not working on it. That's what I do. You shut it down. And not only shut it down, you go to the power point and you turn it off. Okay, you don't sit in front of your microwave while you're making a cup of tea. You make sure your microwave is a distance away from you. Okay, you make sure your Wi-Fi is cabled. If you've got your Wi-Fi router and it's cabled by Ethernet cables directly to the computer you're using, make sure that that Wi-Fi router is away from you. Do not sleep with your Wi-Fi on. Okay, do not try to mitigate risk that way and turn off a lot of different things. And that's really what you want to do. But we live in a world where transmitters are in every smart TV. Okay, everything has to be Wi-Fi. You can't turn it off. It's just all Wi-Fi. I mean, you know, it's the world that we live in, right? In the meantime, though, go and do your own research, of course, decide for yourselves. You can look up those things and do a bit of research. Link to this lady's channel here, this very excellent research we placed in the comment section, as well as all the other links as well. And in the meantime, stay safe, take care of yourselves. The tinfoil is really real, okay? This is real stuff. So tinfoil is real. And unfortunately, a tinfoil hat isn't going to really save you. It's nearly going to have a tinfoil suit, okay? And the tinfoil is going to have to be folded like about 1,000 times. You're going to have to be like an astronaut walking around after 5G. By the way, did they land on the moon? No, they never landed on the moon, in my opinion. This whole world is just a bunch of lies sewn together into some kind of fabric that resembles reality. It is mirror world, the complete and utter opposite. This is who's upholding law. Okay, this individual here. He is the law. This is the person. This is the sheriff of Nottingham, a very greasy individual. This is the person. Truth, justice. Look at it. It's an embarrassment to the world. Defender of Clinton. In the meantime, go and do your own research, course, decide for yourselves. Whatever you do, though, make sure to stay safe, and I'll see you all later.